Every invention you rely on today started with a single piece of burnt wood. Not a genius in a lab, not a king with an army. A prehistoric human, crouching over dying embers, picked up something black, light, and still glowing. That moment, roughly 400,000 years ago, triggered a chain reaction. That would not stop until it reshaped every city, every army, and every molecule of air above your head. And here is the part nobody tells you. That black piece of burnt wood and the coal that powers your electricity grid are chemically the same thing. One is 400,000 years old. The other is 300 million years old. Same carbon, same reaction, same consequences. Stay with me until the 8-minute mark, because what I am about to show you about the Industrial Revolution will permanently change how you see the modern world. You are squatting next to a fire, somewhere in what is now Northern Europe. The wood has burned down to a heap of black, cracked fragments. They glow faintly when the wind hits them. You reach in and grab one. It is hot, but not unbearable. It is light, much lighter than the branch it used to be. And when you blow on it, it glows brighter than the wood ever did. You do not know what you are holding. You do not know it is almost pure carbon. You do not know that the volatile compounds have been driven off by heat, leaving behind a structure that burns hotter, cleaner, and longer than anything you have ever used. You just know it burns better. That is charcoal, the first fuel humans ever improved. And it was not invented, it was noticed. Here is something that should stop you cold. Charcoal is not a discovery in the way we normally think about discoveries. It was a byproduct that existed in every single campfire, on every single continent, for hundreds of thousands of years. Every fire your ancestors ever built produced charcoal automatically. A process called pyrolysis strips out water, gases, and volatile compounds, leaving behind a structure that is 80 to 90% pure carbon. That structure was sitting in the ashes of every prehistoric fire pit on the planet, waiting for someone to pay attention. And we know exactly when someone did, because of what they drew with it. In December 1994, 3 explorers entered a cave in southern France, called Chauvet Cave. The walls stopped them in their tracks. Horses, lions, rhinoceroses, and bears, rendered with a sophistication that stunned the entire art world. Radiocarbon dating placed the oldest images at roughly 36,000 years ago. They were drawn in charcoal, not smeared, drawn, with controlled lines, deliberate shading, and intentional technique. At Lascaux, another cave in southern France, paintings dated to roughly 17,000 years ago used charcoal alongside mineral pigments. At the Apollo 11 cave in Namibia, charcoal drawings dated to roughly 27,000 years ago were found on portable stone slabs. Across 3 continents, spanning tens of thousands of years, humans independently discovered the same thing. Charcoal makes a mark, and marks make memory. The first recorded history in human civilization was written in burnt wood, but here is where charcoal does something that wood never could. And this is the discovery that changes everything. A standard wood fire reaches roughly 575 degrees Fahrenheit. A charcoal fire, with proper airflow, reaches over 1300 degrees Fahrenheit. Push a bellows through it, and you cross 2200 degrees Fahrenheit. At that temperature, rock melts. Think about what that means for a second. The green-tinged mineral called malachite, which early humans had been grinding up as paint pigment for thousands of years, melts at around 1985 degrees Fahrenheit. And when it melts in the presence of charcoal, something chemically extraordinary happens. The carbon in the charcoal strips the oxygen atoms away from the copper molecules, leaving behind pure liquid metal. Metal, pulled out of a rock by burning wood that was already burned. A twice-burned piece of wood just pulled metal out of a rock. That single chemical reaction is the foundation of the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, the Steel Age, and every single piece of metal you have ever touched in your entire life. Your car keys, your phone frame, the bridge you drove over this morning. All of it traces back to someone noticing a bead of shiny liquid forming in a very hot charcoal fire, near a piece of green rock. The earliest evidence of copper smelting dates to roughly 5000 BC, at sites in Serbia and across what is now Turkey. Every single one of those smelting operations ran on charcoal. There was no alternative. But charcoal had a fatal weakness, and that weakness almost strangled civilization before it could grow. Charcoal requires wood, enormous quantities of wood. To produce just 2.2 pounds of charcoal, you need roughly 9 to 15 pounds of raw timber. A single iron smelting operation could consume acres of forest every single year. Multiply that by thousands of furnaces, operating across an entire continent, for centuries. The math is devastating. By the late 1500s, England was running out of trees. The Royal Navy needed oak for warships. The iron industry needed charcoal for smelting. In 1615, King James I issued a royal proclamation banning wood and charcoal for glassmaking, not because coal was better, but because the forests were simply gone. And this is the exact moment in the story where coal enters. Not as a revolutionary new discovery, as a desperate last resort. Here is something that will completely reorganize how you understand this story. The word coal did not originally mean what you think it means. In Old English, the word coal meant a glowing ember, meaning charcoal. The black rock we now pull from underground was called sea coal because it washed up on beaches in northeastern England, or pit coal because it came from pits in the ground. The language itself tells you which fuel came first. Coal was charcoal. The rock borrowed the name later. So when did humans actually encounter mineral coal for the first time? Coal outcrops exist on every continent, which means every ancient culture with access to fire eventually found it. At a place called Burning Mountain, near the town of Wingan in New South Wales, Australia, a coal seam has been smoldering underground for approximately 6,000 years. The indigenous Wanarua people of the region knew about it long before any Europeans set foot on that continent. They could feel the heat rising from the ground. They could see smoke drifting from cracks in the hillside. That coal seam was already thousands of years old when the Egyptian pyramids were being built. The earliest written reference to coal comes from Theophrastus, a student of Aristotle, who wrote a treatise called On Stones around 314 BC. He described substances in what is now northwestern Italy and Greece that he called stones that catch fire. He noted that metal workers were already using them for sustained, intense heat. That was 2,300 years ago. Greek blacksmiths were burning coal before the Roman Empire even existed. The Romans took it further. When Rome occupied Britain, Roman soldiers burned coal to heat their barracks and their bathwater along Hadrian's Wall, at the bathhouse complex in Bath, and at major settlements across the island. The same coal fields that would power the Industrial Revolution 17 centuries later were already being worked by Roman hands. And then Rome withdrew from Britain in the early 400s AD, and organized coal use largely stopped for the next 800 years. Coal, it turns out, requires infrastructure. Without roads, without organization, without industrial demand, the rock just sits there. But here is the question nobody asks. If coal was known for thousands of years, why did it take until the 1700s for it to actually change the world? The answer involves a chemical problem so fundamental that it nearly made coal completely useless for the one thing civilization needed most. And solving that problem, by a single man, in a single furnace, in a small English town, triggered the most explosive transformation in all of human history. That is coming up in 60 seconds. Coal contains sulfur, and sulfur ruins iron. When you smelt iron with charcoal, the charcoal provides clean, pure carbon. When you try to smelt iron with raw coal, the sulfur bonds with the iron and makes it brittle, cracked, and completely useless. Metal workers called this defect cold short. For centuries, this single chemical problem meant that coal could heat your home, but it could not build your civilization. As long as iron required charcoal, every forge, every foundry, every blacksmith shop on earth remained chained to the forest. In 1709, a man named Abraham Darby, working at a place called Coalbrookdale in Shropshire, England, cracked the problem. He heated raw coal in an enclosed vessel, driving off the sulfur and the volatile compounds, leaving behind a purified, high-carbon fuel called coke. Coke is to coal what charcoal is to wood. Same principle, different raw material, civilization-changing result. Darby used coke to smelt iron ore cleanly and successfully, for the first time in history. That iron built steam engines. Those steam engines pumped water out of flooding coal mines, so more coal could be dug, so more iron could be made, so more engines could be built. The Industrial Revolution was not a straight line of progress. It was a feedback loop, accelerating faster than anyone could control. Here is the part that should genuinely stop you cold. The Industrial Revolution was not powered by human genius alone. It was powered by a biological accident that happened 300 million years ago. During a period called the Carboniferous, the Earth was covered in vast tropical swamp forests. Giant trees, some reaching over 130 feet tall, grew and fell for millions of years. And here is the accident. The fungi that break down wood today had not yet evolved. A structural compound in trees called lignin made wood rigid and rot-resistant, and no organism on Earth had yet developed the tools to decompose it. So when a tree fell into a swamp 300 million years ago, it did not rot. It just sat there. Layer after layer, century after century, millions of years of unrotted wood piling up in swamp water, slowly compressed by sediment, slowly cooked by the heat of the earth, slowly transformed into peat, then lignite, then coal. The coal under your feet is over 1,000 times older than your entire species. When the factories of the Industrial Revolution burned coal, they were not burning rock. They were burning ancient sunlight, captured by trees that lived before the dinosaurs, stored in chemical form for 300 million years, and spent in 200. The Industrial Revolution was an act of time travel. Humanity reached 300 million years into the past, grabbed the stored energy of an ancient world, and burned through it in 2 centuries. And the cost of burning that account came due faster than anyone expected. On December 5, 1952, a temperature inversion trapped cold air over London. Millions of coal fires, power stations, and diesel buses poured exhaust into air that had nowhere to go. For 5 straight days, London was swallowed by a yellow-black smog so dense that visibility dropped to less than 3 feet. Theaters shut down. Ambulances stopped running because drivers could not see the road. Cattle at the Smithfield Agricultural Show suffocated in their stalls. A 2004 reassessment placed the final death toll at approximately 12,000 people. 12,000 people, killed by the air they were breathing, in the capital city of a modern nation, in the middle of the 20th century. Think about that person in your life who complains about air quality today. Send them this video, because they need to understand exactly where that problem started. But coal was killing people long before the London smog. It was killing the people who dug it out of the ground every single day. Methane gas seeps naturally from coal seams and is colorless, odorless, and explosive. A single spark from a pickaxe striking stone could ignite a pocket of methane and kill everyone in the tunnel within seconds. On April 26, 1942, at the Benshihu Colliery in China, a coal dust explosion killed 1,549 miners in a single incident, the deadliest coal mine disaster in recorded history. The mine was operating under Japanese military occupation, and when the fire ignited, the operators sealed the mine exits to starve the fire of oxygen. The miners were sealed inside with it. On March 10, 1906, at the Corrières mine in northern France, 1,099 miners died. On October 14, 1913, at the Universal Colliery in Senginnedd, Wales, 439 miners were killed in the worst mining disaster in British history. And before all the explosions, there were the children. In 1842, the British government published a Royal Commission report on conditions inside the nation's coal mines. The testimony inside that report shocked an entire nation. An 8-year-old girl named Sarah Gooder testified about her job as a trapper. She sat alone in total darkness for 12 or more hours a day, opening and closing ventilation doors as coal wagons passed through the tunnel. She said she had to work without any light, and she was scared, and she started her shift at 4 in the morning. 8 years old. Alone in the dark. 4 in the morning. The Mines Act of 1842 banned all females and boys under the age of 10 from working underground. Not 5, 10. Children over 10 continued working in mines for decades after that law passed. Here is the last piece of this story that almost nobody knows. Charcoal did not just smelt metal and draw cave paintings. It is one of the 6 core ingredients in every explosion fired before the modern era. Around the 9th century AD, Chinese alchemists searching for a formula for immortality accidentally mixed potassium nitrate, sulfur, and charcoal together. The standard gunpowder formula that emerged, refined over centuries, is roughly 75% potassium nitrate, 15% charcoal, and 10% sulfur. 1 out of every 6 parts of every musket shot, every cannon blast, every firework display in human history was charcoal. burnt wood, ground to powder, packed into a tube, and the same material also filtered your drinking water. Ancient Egyptians were using charcoal to purify water around 1500 BC. Modern activated charcoal has an internal surface area of roughly 500 to 1,500 square feet per gram. A single teaspoon of activated charcoal contains more surface area than a football field. The same substance a prehistoric human smeared on a cave wall 36,000 years ago is filtering the water coming out of your tap today. And then there is the Kingsford connection, which almost nobody talks about. In the early 1920s, Henry Ford had a problem. His Model T assembly process generated enormous quantities of wood scraps and sawdust, and Ford hated waste. His cousin-in-law, Edward Kingsford, connected him to timber-rich land in Michigan. Together, with input from Thomas Edison, they built a charcoal briquette factory. Wood scraps from automobile manufacturing were processed into charcoal, compressed with a starch binder into uniform briquettes, and sold to the American public. The Kingsford Company became the dominant charcoal brand in America. The backyard barbecue, the summer cookout, the smell of charcoal on a warm Saturday evening exists. Because a car manufacturer did not want to throw away his wood scraps. Here is what you have actually been watching this entire time. Charcoal was not invented. It was a consequence of fire that humans noticed, then figured out how to use, one application at a time. Cave paintings at 36,000 years ago. Metal smelting at 5000 BC. Water filtration at 1500 BC. Gunpowder at 900 AD. Backyard grilling in 1920. Coal was not a triumph of technology. Coal was what happened when civilization ran out of trees and had no other choice. They just knew it burned. And humanity has been burning it ever since. If this changed how you see something you use every single day, share this with one person in your life who thinks they already know how the modern world was built, because they do not know this story. Subscribe, because this channel exists for exactly one reason: to show you the hidden history underneath everything you take for granted.